Councillor Stockwell, your two are on general government.
Okay, none on the general government. Oh, okay, sorry. All right, thanks.
Okay, is there anything to be pulled? Okay. It's moved by Councillor Smith, seconded by Councillor Belanger. Be it resolved that the Development Services section of Coordinated Committee hereby receives the November 10th, 2016 consent agenda items 5B through to 5G, and that all the recommendations contained therein be adopted.
Madam Chair, the motion having been read, I'll ask for members to respond in favor or against Councillor Belanger.
In favor?
Councillor Bray.
In favor?
Councillor Eagle.
In favor?
Councillor Smith.
In favor.
Councillor Stockwell.
Favor.
And Madam Chair,
In favor?
the vote is 6-0. The motion is carried.
Okay, thank you, and that's the end of this section. We'll recess for 10 minutes so the recording secretaries can switch out.
Thank you.
call the General Government section of Coordinated Committee to order. I would just like to start by saying that this is our Deputy Clerk, Pam Archdeacon's last meeting to be recording the minutes because she will be retiring tomorrow. So thank you for all you have done, Pam. Thank you. And then disclosure of pecuniary interests. At this point, we have none. If at any point during the meeting you find yourself needing to declare, please do. Deputations, petitions, presentations, and public meetings, we have none. Unfinished business, we have none. Other agency reports, none. And then consent agenda. All items listed below will be approved by one resolution. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member requests it, in which case the item will be removed from the consent resolution and considered immediately following adoption of the remaining consent agenda items. Items to be polled are under section F, Downtown Master Plan, Directions Report and Presentation, and a Fire Fit Challenge 2017. Are there any other items to poll before we vote on the consent agenda? So then, moved by Councillor Smith, seconded by Deputy Mayor by Fulci, resolved that General Government section of Coordinated Committee hereby receives the consent agenda, items 6D through to 6G, and that the recommendations contained therein be adopted as amended.
Madam Chair, the motion has been read. I'll ask the members to respond for or against. Councillor Boulanger.
In favor?
Deputy Mayor Byfolch, in favor. Councillor Ego.
In favor.
Councillor Smith.
In favor.
Councillor Stockwell.
In favor?
And Madam Chair.
In favor.
The vote is 6-0 in favor. The motion is carried.
Thank you. So the first item that was pulled was the Downtown Master Plan, Directions Report and Presentation. Councillor.
Madam Chair, that's the one that I asked to be held. Yeah. This is the Downtown Wasaga Beach Master Plan, and the recommendation is that the General Government section of the Coordinating Committee recommends to Council that the Downtown Wasaga Beach Master Plan Directions Report be received for information. I have no trouble with receiving it for information eventually. However, I have had an opportunity to meet with the planners, and I told them in no uncertain terms that I really don't agree with everything they're recommending, although I think they're doing a good job and will continue to do a good job. So it's really, what I'm suggesting today is that this, to simply approve it and keep silent because it really doesn't do anything other than receive it, is maybe misleading the planners. So I think we do have to get in to have the discussions. However, having said that, I think that it's important enough an issue that we should have the entire council here for such a move. So I'm simply going to move a deferral to either an upcoming, I'll defer it to the CAO's office and make sure it comes back at the earliest opportunity, but when we're assured of a full council attendance. And in saying that, I'm not being critical of anybody taking a vacation. I've done that myself. But I think it's certain issues that I think need a full council for discussion.
Any comments? Would there be a second person to defer that?
Second for the deferral?
Second.
You asking for a
deferral?
seconder?
Yes.
Yeah. Any comments? No? Okay. And do we have a motion to defer?
I'm going to have to ask again, do we do deferrals in writing? Yeah, we do, okay. It might be just as fast to write it out. Let's type.
Just defer this. Do we have to vote on both of them?
Well, my experience is that we would move to table it or defer this, and that we would just vote on this and right, to tabled on. But if council or committee wants this motion has not been presented to the floor yet, so a deferring motion, deferring the subject could be presented. And in my world, we would present that motion and someone would move to defer that.
Madam Chair, maybe you can
Could we do
move
that?
on, or just move on to the next item and
Okay.
then come back to that.
Okay, so we'll postpone that vote until the paperwork catches up and maybe move on to the discussion on the fire pit.
And again, Madam Chair, I have asked for that to be held. This is the Fire Fit Challenge, and the recommendation is that the General Government Section of Coordinating Committee recommends the Council providing a hosting fee of $10,000 for this two-day event, an additional $10,000 to cover other logistical requirements for the event as outlined in the hosting fee contract, pending approval of the 2017 budget, and further, that the 2017 pre-budget approval be granted totaling $2,500 in order to secure the event date for 2017. Now, if my memory serves me, Madam Chair, I think this is the third year that we're getting into the third year for such the event. I think they've been very successful in the past. However, we're now being asked to put more funds in on a guaranteed basis. And I think considering the fact that they're taxpayer dollars, which all the money that we commit is taxpayer dollars, that this is a case of maybe the event is demanding too much in the way of support from the taxpayers, in my opinion. We can talk about that, or we could simply, I would just simply like to defer it back to staff on the basis of, for the amount of 20,000 or 18 or 19, somewhere in that area, that's simply too much for what we're getting out of the event. The event, my understanding again, is it's about 300 participants, plus whoever comes along with them for the weekend in the way of family. But at the most, I would think, I don't know, 1,000 people, 1,200 people. And for that kind of money, I think that it's something that we should be going back or referring it back to staff with a request that they meet with the promoters, because this is getting the money, is the promoters, and try and negotiate the amount of a commitment on behalf of the taxpayers down rather than separately have. So that's just to get into the nitty-gritty details of the event. I think the event's a good event. I think it's an interesting event, but it's getting too pricey for our taste. So I again would I would move a motion to refer it back to staff for further discussions with the promoters.
Any other discussion at the table? Deputy Mayor?
Just to say, I think it is a good event. I look at some of the other events that we have going on, and over the years, how much we've given to them year after year, and this is still in its early stages, and I'm quite comfortable with the staff report, and I will be supporting it.
Any other comments or any questions that you'd like to perhaps ask staff while they're...
No, I've had discussions with staff, thank you. Yeah, I've gone to staff and chatted with them.
Councillor Blanche?
Yeah, just a question maybe of Jenny. Many events, and not every year, but certainly do some kind of survey or try to understand the financial, economic impact of the event. Has there been any kind of indication from the promoters as to what they believe the contribution to the community is?
So Dave May, have you had that discussion with them?
Well, just in regards to the amount of participants that come.
So through you, Madam Chair, so Councillor Belanger, if the question is, have they done an actual economic impact study? Is that what you're wondering about the event?
Well, it could be informal or formal. Like I know, obviously we've had some presentations where there's been a third-party survey.
Yeah.
But it could be something less formal than that as to, the kind of hotel stays or just what they believe. I somewhat agree with Bill that in being at the event that the viewing audience and the participation is somewhat limited compared to some events, but I believe it was a quality event as well.
So this event is a little bit of a unique situation. in that a few years back, there was some direction provided to staff to try and attract some larger scale events. And part of that discussion was that we would be prepared, at that time, the municipality would be prepared to pay a hosting fee. So because the Fire Fit event that comes to us, we pay a hosting fee too, we've never asked them to do an economic impact study because the fee is not given in the form of a grant, it's given in a form of we're gonna pay you to come and do the event. That being said, we can certainly ask them what their initial reaction would be. For myself personally, I do believe there is a proportion of people that do come and they do stay. They'll stay one, sometimes 2 nights, and as Councillor Stockwell mentioned, people do bring family and friends with them, but we've never asked for a formal economic impact study, but we certainly could try and get some numbers together, or a good indication, but we've never asked them to provide us with anything because it's a bit of a unique situation.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
If there's no more comments or questions, I can read the motion.
Is this an amendment or a motion? Madam Chair, I guess I need a bit of direction. Is the committee wanting to vote this motion up or down? Or is Councillor Stockwell wanting to propose, before that happens, before it's read, to defer it? And if he wants to defer it for a further staff report, or what would be the reason, I would say? So those are
Madam
the two
Chair,
options.
yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I think that we should be voting on the deferral or the referral motion first, and that if that carries, then we don't have to deal with the main motion. If it doesn't carry, then I can decide whether I want to support the main motion or not. If the main motion goes first, it's putting the cart before the horse, I guess. So that would be my suggestion or request as to how they're presented.
So you'd like to make a referral motion?
Yeah.
Do you have a second for that?
I think I do.
Madam Chair, through you, so we have a motion prepared that the Fire Fit Challenge report be deferred or referred back to staff. What is the direction?
For further negotiations. And I think staff understands, if it carries, I think understands their task.
I did just want to make committee aware of one thing that Dave's just reminded us of. Part of that report and part of the recommendation was a $25,000 deposit. By no means, or thank you, $2,500 deposit. By no means am I suggesting that that's something that you're prepared to do today. But I did just want to let you know that there is another community in Quebec right now that FireFit is also speaking to. So on their website this morning, Dave had a look at it. So for those dates in July, there's a Quebec date and a Wasaga Beach date. So the approach FireFit has taken, and they're in a position where they can do this because it's very popular and they go across the country. They will give that date to whoever comes forward with the money first, with the deposit first. Not to put pressure by any means. I don't think there's a need to do that. Just so you're aware. Well, no, just so you know. Just so you know.
Perish the thought.
So, yeah. Just so you're aware that there is another community that's also interested in that date. But
Councillor Blanchet?
So just a question then, I don't, from Bill's recommendation for deferral, we would still have the option to agree to a $2,500 advance to secure the event in the meantime as a separate motion?
No.
No. No. We run the risk of losing it if we don't make a decision today.
Resolve that the General Government Services Section Coordinating Committee. Recommend.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yeah.
One of the other events that is proposed for that weekend as well is the Underground
Fire
Series.
Challenge
So there are 2 proposed events for that weekend that are still tentative. So if we did lose one or the other, hopefully there'll still be one event going on at least that weekend or whatever else came around as well.
How much is that going to cost? No, seriously.
We don't know yet.
the Underground Series. So this will be their 6th year back. Last year, we provided a grant of $11,000. We've had a good discussion with the event organizers, and we've explained that that will be scaled back. That event is again another unique, each event is different, they're all unique in their own way, and I know that you're all aware of that. So with the Underground Series, we were working on the budget this morning, and what we've put in is an $8,000 potential sponsorship. But also keep in mind that with the Underground Series, they do use our municipal parking lots, so we will be charging them for that. They'll be charged for the application fee as well.
Madam, may I follow up on that? Through you, Madam Chair. So you're saying it's an event fee less the amount that would be charged for parking, etc.? Or would it be over and above?
So with the Underground Series, they came to us and went through our special event application process, not like FireFit. FireFit, we recruited them. So as part of the and I always mix the two up, as part of the Underground Series special event application, they request a sponsorship from the town. However, similar to other events such as Blues Fest, for that sponsorship, we get significant marketing exposure. So that's the way that we look at it. So if we do agree that we're going to provide them $8,000 in 2017, we are also going to turn around and charge these event organizers for use of the parking lot where they're going to host their event. So instead of us providing them an $8,000 check and them giving us back, as this guess, $2,000 in parking, we would deduct it from the $8,000 for less paperwork. But that situation is that sponsorship goes towards a very specific marketing approach. Now with FireFit, the $10,000 that we pay for FireFit, for that, all of their equipment comes. And there's also exposure to us as well, but it's a unique situation in that we recruited them. We did not recruit the Underground Series.
And and further questions, then I'll speak, please.
Okay, so I'll read the motion.
No, I said, I've got my in.
I'm sorry.
Madam Chair, if I may. So I just did some quick math, and because of the limited, I really support this event. I think it's great, but what I didn't consider, and I'm looking at now, is so we spend all in around $20,000 for 200 people, 300 people. So divide 20,000 by 300, and that's how much this event is costing per person, right? For the 300 participants. So if somebody brings in an event, I'm just playing devil's advocate here. So if somebody brings in an event that attracts 10,000 people, the cost per person participating in that event is significantly lower, correct?
That's one way to look at it,
Yeah.
certainly.
Yeah.
If we're going to look at just the number of registration, just that and that alone, and not the people that come with them, then that's one way to look at it. If we're looking at the number of registration that comes in, as well as kids, wives, friends, husbands, grandparents, then the number is quite larger. But it's very difficult for us to say that with FireFit, competitor X brings 5 people with them because we don't have that data.
Councillor Blanchard?
Thank you, Chair. No, I think you have to go beyond registration. The bleachers were full last year. So there was good participation from residents that were curious to what was going on. So no different than any festival, you count the entire participation. So it's not just the registered participants, but it's everybody that shows up for the event. Obviously, residents wouldn't stay overnight, but they may spend money and do a few things down on the beachfront. So it's, in fairness, it's a lot more than 300.
I just thought it was.
Yeah, I agree. I think if we're looking to promote family-friendly events, this is one of them. This is the type of thing like our Canada Day, where we do have significant budgets to put activity down at the beachfront, and this puts an awful lot of activity down there for a budget similar to Inflate-A-Fest, Canada Day, different things that we do as a town, and it is family-friendly, so at this point I would support it. I will read the motion and we can take a vote. So moved by Councillor Stockwell, seconded by Councillor Ego. Resolved that the General Government Services Section of Coordinated Committee recommend that FireFit Challenge 2017 report dated November 16th be referred back to staff for further negotiation with the organizer. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The motion has been read. I'll ask members to respond with in favor or against.
Point of order before you call that. You and I signed a motion. Where is that?
referral.
That's the.
This is the referral
Oh,
of this,
okay,
it'll be
okay,
next.
Okay,
Madam
If this
Chair?
one fails.
okay, thank you.
Exactly,
Yeah.
yes.
Thank you.
And if this one passes, then this one never gets presented.
Okay.
Deputy Mayor Bifulci,
Opposed?
Councillor Eagle,
In favor.
Councillor Smith,
Opposed.
Councillor Stockwell,
Favor.
Councillor Belanger,
Opposed?
and Madam Chair.
Opposed.
The vote is 2 in favor, 1, 2, 3, 4 against. The motion is defeated, Madam Chair.
So now we read the
So
original
this one-
motion.
This one is
This is my
on
vote.
the table.
Okay, so moved by Deputy Mayor Bifulci, seconded by Councillor Smith. Resolved that the General Government Committee hereby receive the General Government Services Section of Coordinated Committee, recommending to Council that it approve hosting the 3rd Annual Fire Fit event to be held in Wasaga Beach on July 8th and 9th, 2017. And further than that, the General Government Services Section of Coordinated Committee recommends to Council to provide a hosting fee of $10,000 for this 2-day event, and an additional $10,000 to cover other logistical requirements for the event as outlined in the hosting fee contract pending approval of the 2017 budget. And further, that 27 pre-budget approval be granted totaling $2,500 in order to secure the event date for 2017. And further, that an appropriate physical space be provided to the event organizer in Playland Park Square, and all other logistic requirements be fulfilled based on the Fire Fit Challenge host agreement.
Are we able to make a comment at this point or no?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Councillor Belanger.
I'm in favor of this, but just for staff, I think for future years that we need to look at some kind of measure, re-economic impact. And the other thing that I believe this event lends itself very well to is some kind of fundraising activity for our local fire department. That, I don't know if you can have 50-50 draws or whatever you can have during an event like that, but I think it is an opportunity to, again, get some financial impact back to the community for the investment we're making.
You go ahead.
Go ahead. Madam Chair. You're absolutely right. There is opportunity for local community organizations to actually be part of this. And a lot of the other role models across the country is that a lot of the community organizations, either service groups or actually the fire department themselves, host the actual Fire Fit event where they try and rally and put a fundraiser around it. We're kind of unique where the Fire Fit originally the Fire Fit organization was brought in from a special events town perspective and not hosted originally by the actual fire department. Our fire department this past year was exemplary in regards to getting support and making the event happen, and a lot of them participated in it. So, and I think we're kind of moving towards that goal. But definitely, there is opportunity if there are any groups out there who wish to kind of tag on to the Fire Fit event and be part of it as well to do some sort of fundraiser or community focus activity.
And I just wanted to add one thing. Regardless of what the decision is today, there's nothing stopping us, Dave, from going back to the event organizers and asking if that $10,000 fee is at all negotiable. So we will do the best that we can to spend obviously the least amount of money, and there are other ways that we can try and reduce some of the costs, and Dave has some good suggestions for that. So regardless of what happens, we certainly won't take the approach, oh, you've provided $20,000, so we're just going to blow it all. So be careful with it.
Thank you. Dave?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And as I did mention in the report, one of the reasons why I think the expenses for at least 2016 were maybe inflated a little bit for the past year was it was on the same weekend as Canada Day, which prompted an extra day of security because we had to overlay Canada Day and had to set up a day earlier. Some of these things that we did add on were directly related to kind of attaching on to Canada Day, so things like parking lot rentals and inflatables, those costs will be reduced. I've also, as Jenny mentioned, I've also seen areas just by experiencing the event this past summer that I'm going to be looking into in regards to. I see some areas that the expenses will come down, security being one of them, and hopefully medical services will be another one in regards to where those services or those fees will come down for this year as well.
Thank you. Councillor Ego?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was just wondering if you could give me any idea of how many of our firefighters participate in this?
They did participate, like actual physically in the competition itself.
Mhm.
There were, I can get the exact numbers from the chief for sure. There were some individuals that did compete, and then they did have 1 or 2 teams, I believe, in the relay, which was on the Sunday. So we had probably in total, I'm estimating at this point, anywhere from 6 to 10 of our local firefighters that participated in the relay, as well as individually. Because the relay teams can be anywhere from 3 to 5 people, and of course the individuals are individuals. But I could follow up with the chief and get that exact number for you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, any more questions? Seeing none.
Madam Chair, the motion having been read, I will ask for the members to respond in favor or against. Councillor Belanger.
In favor?
Deputy Mayor Byfold. In favor. Councillor Ego.
In favor.
Councillor Smith.
In favor.
Councillor Stockwell.
Opposed?
And Madam Chair.
In favor.
The vote is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in favor, 1 against. The motion is carried. Madam Chair, we do have the motion prepared with respect to the downtown Wasaga Beach master plan, referring that report back. I have one question. Does this have to be recommended on to council, or is the committee able to just refer it back? So the motion reads that the General Government Services section of Coordinated Committee recommend to council that the master plan be deferred to a future meeting of Coordinated Committee or Committee of the Whole, just Coordinated Committee. So do we recommend this on to council, or does the committee have the ability to defer it? And Madam Chair, do we have when we say a future meeting, is that sufficient enough, or is that sufficiently vague, or do we have a particular?
Well, through you, Madam Chair, I don't think it's up to us to project as to when what meeting it should go to. I'm just saying it's got to go, and I don't know if the clock is ticking on it. Mr. CAO, is it for this report?
Through you, Madam Chair, no.
No. So it's something you can put in the hands of staff.
As soon as
Again, if you can read my writing.
I believe
Oh.
you. You have an honest face. You're gonna read it? You have to read it too.
I can read it.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
So again, if you can read, squeeze in that.
So the motion reads, moved by Councillor Stockwell, seconded by Councillor Ego. Resolved that the General Government Services section of Coordinated Committee direct that the Downtown Wasaga Beach Master Plan Directions Report be deferred to a future meeting of Coordinated Committee or Committee of the Whole. Madam Clerk. Oops.
Further discussion, Madam Chair?
Are there any comments or further discussion? If not, we can call the vote.
Madam Chair, the motion having been read, I'll ask the members to respond. I've got an old motion form, so bear with me, everyone's in a different order. Deputy Mayor Byfolchi. In favor. Councillor Ego.
In favor?
Councillor Smith.
In favor.
Councillor Stockwell.
Favor.
Councillor Belanger.
In favor?
And Madam Chair.
In favor.
The motion is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in favor, 0 against. The motion is carried.
Thank you. Okay, moving right along, the date of our next meeting is Thursday, December 6th, 2016. There is nothing for closed session today, and this meeting is now adjourned. Thank you.